SonicLAB
TV.
For many people, the original Kaossilator with its XY pad for creating little synth sounds and recording beats into the onboard loop recorder was a bit of a toy, even though it was great fun. Since then, in fact at this NAMM, Korg have brought out the Kaossilator Pro. Those of you who've seen our NAMM coverage or watched our unboxing video have seen this before. Thanks very much for all the questions that have been asked. I will endeavour to answer them in this review. But as you can see, this is much more like the Kaoss Pad KP3 form factor, much more solid, metal construction, a bit more of a different beast. In fact, the XY pad is much larger, and as you can see, it's backlit like the KP3, but the really big difference is that there are 4 loop locations within the Kaossilator Pro, so that allows you to build up much more complex and functionally independent loops. So let's just jump in and record a loop. First thing we'll do is set the loop length. We've got it set to 16 beats here, which is 4 bars. We can have 2 bars, 1 bar, 2 beats, 1 beat, a quarter beat, 8th beat, 16th beat, 32nd beat, and 64th note. We'll start with 16 here. We'll just go straight in and record. Okay, that's done. Select another sound, come out and record. Let's try this one. Use the gate arp here, and I'm using this fader to change the gate length so I can sort of play a little bit of a riff. So now what I can mute the loops individually. I can also change the level. And there you have it, really. Now, once you've recorded your audio, you can save it to an SD card. There's a slot here at the front. Up to 2 GB maximum, there isn't one included. I'll just show you how to do that. So I simply press the Shift button, press Save. I want to save loop A to slot 7, say on my card. Press Go, press Go. And it's done. That's about real time, so it's not the most speedy. Ditto, if I then want to load it, again, pretty slow. It's about real time. Just a quick explanation of how these recorded files work. If you record phrases either using the XY pad and the synth engine or via the external audio, they're saved as KOP files, which are phrase files. To access these in your DAW, you'll need to import them into the editor, which you can download from Korg, and then export them as AFFs or WAVs. However, there are some very cool things that you can do by using the SD card to load loops from your DAW. In this instance, what I've got here is a 3/4 loop in the time signature 3/4 that I created in Logic and bounced to the SD card and loaded into slot D. There's another one, and finally some beats. Now, the tempo doesn't match on here because this is all about 4/4 time signatures. So the tempo in my DAW is actually 109 BPM, but on here is 145. But that's okay because I can still use my gate arpeggiator. I just set it to be triplets. So then I get a gate time of essentially 16th notes. So that's actually really cool. So that means I can put in time signatures that are not 4/4. These are a collection of 3/4 loops, and I can load them from my DAW. This is all pretty good stuff, don't you think? So let's continue our tour. These buttons here are also very handy. They are 8 quick access memory locations. You can load any of the 200 onboard presets into one of these for quick recall, which is very handy for when you've got a particular set. All of this stuff is stored when you save a whole setup to the SD card. So that's quite handy. You can recall an entire setup, including these sounds. Continuing the tour, there's also this dedicated input level, which allows you to blend in the amount of incoming audio, which come either via this line input here, or by the dedicated mic input on a 1/4 inch jack with a dedicated trim control. Input is switchable via this button here between mic and line. This is useful because you can record external audio into any of the loop banks as well as the onboard synth engines. You can actually overdub as well, so it's just another sound source. There's also a bank of vocoder sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, vocoder. Is this vocoder patch alright? 5, 6, 7, 8, vocoder. This bank also includes 3 or 4 external audio processing, sort of along the lines of the Kaoss pad. There's a filter, a delay, a pitch, and a little looper. More real-time control, there's a dedicated volume knob for the currently selected program, as well as discrete and dedicated tempo button where you can tap the tempo, you can change the scale of the unit or the key of the unit, and then you've got erase loop and a dedicated record button. This all makes the Kaossilator Pro experience much more of a kind of real-time, hands-on, sort of tactile experience. Continuing around the back, somebody asked whether the power supply was a bit more standard. Looks like it's 9-volt DC. There's also these dedicated MIDI in and out ports, and that enables this unit to both transmit and receive MIDI data. So before we get too excited about the MIDI capabilities of the Kaoss pad, I better just show you exactly what it can do. And we'll look at the screen here. The note on or touch transmits a maximum MIDI controller, in this case 92. This is reassignable within the unit, so it doesn't have to be fixed to that. And the pitch transmits over 74. The other axis is transmitting over MIDI controller 1. Again, these are all really assignable. The unit also responds to MIDI note data, but this is only used to switch on and off the loops. I did show you in the unboxing video how to play it via the MIDI keyboard. Now this actually is not possible directly by plugging a keyboard directly into the Kaossilator Pro. Unfortunately, it doesn't respond to note data, and I think that it would be a really good idea if it did do. So what you actually have to do is, again I'll show you, you have to map note values. In this case in Logic, what I've done is I've mapped all the notes in a couple of octaves to very specific controller values here, which result in me being able to play notes. But actually all I'm doing is converting notes into controller data. In my opinion, I think if Korg added a mode to the Kaossilator which allowed you to be able to play over MIDI, this would greatly expand the usability and possibilities, because although the XY pad is great fun and certainly chaotic, it's very hard to play staccato, repeatable, precise musical lines with it. Setting the unit into external control, Shift 8, and now the XY pad outputs MIDI note data in this axis and controller data in this axis. Each of these buttons and these buttons and this button and this fader also output MIDI control data, so it's quite useful to control external source. Only problem is, when it is in this mode, it doesn't make any noise, it's just a MIDI controller. Right, so we've got the Kaossilator here. We also have the ability to synchronize. So going to Shift MIDI gives us the filter, clock settings, got that internal, external, auto. We'll take external. Now you can see this is the tempo of my DAW, which is transmitting MIDI clock to the Kaossilator Pro. Here's a loop. We'll change the tempo of my DAW drastically. That's great. The tempo is certainly changing, but it's not in sync, and this is a bit of a problem really, because obviously the idea of sync is sync, and this just, it will adjust the tempo in real time, but it won't actually be in time. It'd be far better if the Kaossilator Pro actually responded to MIDI clock start, so that when I hit go on my sequencer, it would trigger the loops from the beginning, rather than just arbitrarily set the clock. And that is a bit of a disappointment really, because I can't see how you would use this in a kind of meaningful way for synchronization. The Kaossilator Pro is a massive improvement over the original Kaossilator. The Pro features, such as the individual sample channels and the fact that you can sample and also save and load sounds on your SD card, are brilliant. You can incorporate this into your set with much greater ease, I feel, and create more meaningful compositions. However, the load and save time on the SD card are pitifully slow. They should really be able to speed that up, I feel. The other issue that I have is obviously the one I mentioned with clocking. I don't really understand how the MIDI clock is going to work in this context. But the final problem, and this is really more of a philosophical issue because I know Korg are not trying to sell this as a sound module, it's a performance and phrase looper, is the fact that you can't plug a MIDI keyboard directly into it. You can do it, sure, the way I did it by putting it through Logic and mapping notes to controllers. And to me, that makes it brilliant. It changes the game completely. So really, I beseech you, Korg, please do add this additional feature if you can. It would make it an even greater unit. Pricing, in the UK, £355, in the US, $460. I have seen it an awful lot cheaper online already, even though most places haven't yet got it in stock. So do shop around and really do check it out. It's a big improvement over the original and a whole lot of fun.